Who's someone in your mind? Who comes to your mind when you think about somebody who trusts themselves? Who comes to mind? Anyone?
My mom.
Tell me about your mom.
She's like a magical unicorn. She like has always been so ahead of her time. Like, I was so angry as a kid with my birth dad abandonment and all of that. And she like, against everybody's recommendation, got me into therapy, even against I call him my dad, but I guess technically he's my stepdad. Like, it's a waste of money, whatever. And she's just always ever growing and understanding and evolving, while also completely accepting and loving where she's currently at.
Mm-hmm.
So giving her permission to always be able to change, but not from a place of like that she is unhealed or she is not good. Like in this moment right now, she is, perfect, doing absolutely the best she can. And when new information comes or whatever, then like she can evolve to that. And it like doesn't mean anything. It's not like, oh, she was worse here and better here. I just think that that's like a really magical characteristic. Because a lot of times my healing, I'm getting better, but I've looked at it as like, I'm broken. There's something wrong. I need to fix this, like negative, and everything will be better once I'm here. And I see her look at it more of like yes, technically other people might think I'm broken, but this is who I am. This is what I have. I'm doing the best that I can, and leaving room for like that expansion.
Marissa, when was the time you saw your mom exemplify this?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I mean, I think big examples is when she like randomly comes to me and she's like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, I'm so sorry that when you were a kid and you would, get super angry and throw your shoe against the wall, I didn't understand that it was from like a sensory disorder. Like I thought that you were just being a punk and like you didn't want to go to school. And she never acted those things towards me. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah, I used to just feel so frustrated with you and like you were doing it on purpose. And she's like, I want to apologize. Like if you ever felt that come through, like, even though I didn't say it to you. And I'm like, so, I mean, I just feel like that, I mean, that's one example of her ability to like fully take accountability. And regardless if to me, that was never put on. She never said to me, you're being such a brat. You're just put your shoes on. But she's worried that the energetics like came through. So there's an example.
This is important, guys. Everything that I'm asking for, everything that is being said on this call is moving us towards our goal of learning how to tell stories that make money. You can start to see what it is that I'm doing here. But first, what I'm going to ask is, Lo, can you tell us what you learned about Marissa's mom from that story?
That her mom has a lot of self-awareness, along with being trusting herself too, and that she's introspective with thinking back to things that Marissa did as a child and basically, apologizing. And she just sounds like a really like great person and like a good mom and someone that you can always like go to and depend on, and like a true definition of what a mom is.
Sandy, you can stay off your camera, but I'm going to ask you to answer a question here in a second after I ask Jenna the next question. Jenna, what is it that you learned about Marissa as she told that story about her mom?
I think she has a lot of respect for her mom, and I would assume as well that Marissa has that like mindset of looking back and thinking, okay, where could I have like grown or acted differently, and how can I implement that for the future without any shame, but just with like compassion and wanting to grow.
Sandy, are you there? Are you available to answer a question? If not, I'll move on. Okay, I'm moving on. Guys, the reason that I ask those two questions is so that you guys can see how your psyche responds to hearing someone else. Understand that the purpose of telling a story is to implant beliefs into somebody else. we're always implanting beliefs. We're always basically radiating beliefs from ourselves, and people are inheriting them automatically. From the first 10 years of our life, you're doing it like a sponge. But if it happens repeatedly, it becomes a more concrete belief. So just notice that by happenstance, we were having this conversation and you were already having beliefs about somebody you've never met, somebody none of us have ever seen, which is Marissa's mom, and we're starting to have new beliefs about Marissa. And what's happening at the subconscious level is that new possibilities, new ideas, new beliefs are now populating in your brain. New patterns in your brain are starting to light up that may have never been experienced before. And there may be new connections between older patterns that are being made from one single story. None of this was planned. None of this was rehearsed. This is completely just off of that. So think about what it looks like when you know exactly the story you're trying to tell, when you know exactly how to tell a story, and you know exactly the outcome you're trying to get somebody to believe. That is what we're going to be learning today. Are we ready? Give me a thumbs up if we're ready. All right, guys. So stories, you can already see the impact and the effect that they're having right now. We're going to learn a very simple structure on really a 3-step structure on how to tell a story. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about telling stories to sell and really the sequence that has to occur, and then formulating all of these and then figuring out exactly how to use them to close deals, ideally multiple deals at once from a stage, whether it be on a webinar like what we're doing today or on a live in-person stage. So we'll just back up right there and say, when we think about stories, guys, we really want to think that we have to think first about the effect of the story. It's exactly what we're talking about. It is installing a belief in somebody else. When you think about Star Wars, when you think about Lion King and you watched those stories, it installed beliefs into you. And there's explicit ones around, Simba was a good guy, or that Luke Skywalker could overcome things, or that the Force was strong. And then there are implicit beliefs that come along with that. Those are subconscious beliefs. And those are things like good will overcome evil, and that there are tribulations that come before triumph. So these are things, again, every story is implanting these things in you. So we want to be aware of the stories, not only that we're listening to, that we're consuming, the stories that we're telling others, but also the stories that we're telling ourselves. Because what they are doing is implanting not only explicit conscious beliefs, but it's also implanting the unconscious beliefs. So I'm really going to ask you guys to pay close attention to 2 things here. Not only what I'm saying, but also what is coming up in your mind. Just write out the thoughts. It doesn't have to be in relation to what I'm saying, but you just want to pay attention to the thoughts that are coming up. Because the reason I ask that is because it's going to create more space for more things to come through as we continue to talk. You're here not to listen to me. You're not here to learn from me. You're here to get some stuff and put your brain in like a frequency state to listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about, so that your subconscious can create new connections and put together its own stories. Your subconscious is really the one doing its work here. The more you relax, the more easily your subconscious works. So continuing on with stories. Ultimately, what we want to think about is that there are 3 main parts to a story. If you guys haven't seen my storytelling masterclass, I'll send it to you guys later. But there's 3 main parts. There's a lot of other little tertiary pieces, but the main parts are the first one, where the audience is subconsciously asking one important question. And the important question is, am I like you? Am I like you? You give an exposition in the story. You tell details. You set background information so that the subconscious of the audience can begin to see themselves in the protagonist of the story, whether that's Marissa's mom or Marissa or Simba or Luke Skywalker or you or whatever that thing is. When you're selling something, guys, your client, your prospect has to see themselves in you. They want to see that you understand them, that you get their problems, that you get their life, that you get their identity, ultimately that you are just like them. Once that happens, the nervous system completely down regulates and relaxes, again, which gives us more access to the subconscious. But what it also does is allows them to begin visualizing themselves moving through the journey of your story. So again, the first step, the exposition, the opening of the story, is to answer the question, am I like you? As I say all this stuff, guys, what starts to come to mind for you?
I think I can immediately see people's marketing that I have like, whether or not it's marketing, right? Whatever, just existing that I have really resonated with, or friendships or people that I've met at a networking and immediately kind of felt like, ooh, twinsies. And it's because you like immediately feel that safety, like that they are not, you're not polar opposites, you know, that there is some sort of connecting, whatever it is, there are like links between you.
So continue a little bit more, Marissa. When you think about someone that you purchased from, can you remember what they said, where your brain clicked and said, I am just like them. They are just like me. I want to listen.
I'm trying to think of, okay, well, I haven't purchased from this person. I don't even remember who it was, but it was somebody who was, their messaging was, you like grow your business without showing up on social media. Like, you know, you are tired of being tied to, and the whole thing was learning ads. That was, and I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this, like, it spoke directly to me. And I was like, oh, this is something, you know, that if I had room and whatever, like I would have bought that in a heartbeat if I was busy with life, because the messaging was so direct. Like it was just, you know, do you have a busy life? Like you're sitting in Driveline and you're like, oh, you know, shit, I haven't posted today. Or, you know, you are editing your video and you're like, oh gosh, what am I going to do for dinner? You know, like it was a lot of mom conversation in particular, of like all of like mom and business were getting too enmeshed. But guess what? You can do something, right? You can batch your content, you can film videos, and then you can run ads. And then when you are thinking about making dinner, or when you're picking up kids from school, or then you can be present and then you can be there. So that was like the messaging.
She just revealed our first secret of the day, guys. It's detail. It's detail. When you are telling a story, you want to use explicit, clear details that the audience can connect to and visualize themselves in. She said two things. She said overwhelming. Okay, we all know what it's like to be overwhelmed. Everybody's had the feeling of overwhelming. And it's one thing to talk about, just say, oh, it's overwhelming. And it's another thing to say, I was sitting in my car in traffic, horns were blaring all around me, my kids were in the back seat crying, and my phone was ringing again and again and again and again. So simply by me describing that experience, you start to have the experience of overwhelm. There is a massive difference between saying I was overwhelmed versus describing a scenario that makes the audience feel overwhelmed. And if your people are feeling overwhelmed beforehand, you want to describe the experience that you had that produced the overwhelm. Don't just say, I was overwhelmed. That's cheap storytelling. Secret number one, use details. Meta secret inside of 1.1, use what we call kinesthetic details. I felt the vibration of my phone. I heard it rattling in the cup holder. I could hear my children screaming. My chest tightened as I listened to the horns around me. The car inched forward at a glacial pace. You guys can see what those words do to the body. As your brain is listening to this, it's interpreting as if you were right there. It was already happening. Clarity and detail allows them to connect. Before we proceed into part 2 of 3 of this, does anybody have any questions or any thoughts? Okay. Can everybody already see how just with this one detail, you dramatically enhance your storytelling and you allow your people to connect with you? Okay. Can you also see how if you learn the other 2 or 3 things, you're guaranteed to make sales without even knowing the other 2? A big one for me was Jamie. I saw her content everywhere and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's amazing. She's just really nice. And I was like, I would love to learn from her and just be around her. I was like, I'm just consuming her content because it makes me feel good. And then there was one reel. Well, it's important to say because I was listening to a lot of content from a lot of other people. And everybody, when you're at the beginning of the journey, you're just trying to consume anything that makes you feel good, anything that gives you any confidence. You're just like, please blind us onto anything that's not that. But then Jamie posted a reel one time and she was talking about when she started out and she had this massive fear of taxes. And I was like, oh my God, I have a fear of taxes. So my brain said, Jamie's just like me. And as a result, it connected. And then this massive chain of implicit conclusions came afterwards. It said, if Jamie has once experienced what I'm experiencing right now, then that means it is potentially possible that what she's experiencing right now could be possible for me, which is answering a big overarching question that all of your audience will come into when you start talking about your offers, especially if you can get them when they're listening to you in a room like this. The question fundamentally is, will this work for me? Will this work for me? Now, the next 2 processes, the next 2 steps in the storytelling sequence are what will answer that question every single time for your audience. Are we ready for that? Okay. So again, the first one, we're answering, am I like you? And we do that with the exposition, with clarity and detail. This is where they get to see themselves in us. We create that level of connection. We understand them. They get me. Those are all the implicit beliefs that are happening in them. Remember, explicitly, something else is happening, but implicitly, they're coming to the nervous system conclusion, relaxation, engagement, connection. So the second step, guys, the second step is about the process. If the first one's about the problem, the second one is about the process. So this is where the shift starts happening. The question that gets answered is, what shifted? What changed? What did I used to believe? What used to be true? And what happened to show me what else is true? What else could be true? What else is possible? What shifted? So I had all these beliefs. I had all these experiences that proved that belief to be true. And then one single thing happened that made me question all of my reality. At that point, I'm in like, well, if that wasn't true, then what else could be true? So it's doubling down, guys. This is important. You have to double down on their beliefs. You double down on their beliefs in order to create a more dramatic shift. The greater the emotional shift, guys, look at my hands just really quickly. The greater this experience is in their body, the stronger the brainwave connection occurs and says, this is absolutely true. The more emotion, the more cascade and contrast we can create, the stronger somebody will believe something. In hypnosis, this is usually called fractionation. This is this game of advancement and retreat, and advancement and retreat. So all they're doing is creating this contrast again and again and again and again. You build tension and release. You build tension and release again and again and again. But you have to build that tension by agreeing with their problems, guys. Think about this. They already believe that what you're selling is like everything else. They already believe they've tried everything like yours. They already believe the whole thing doesn't work. They already believe this could work, but it only works for other people. So we want to tell a story that describes exactly the same thing. We want to agree with the experience they've already been having. An example of this, actually, before I tell you an example, does anybody have any, what comes up to mind as I tell you about this?
Sorry, I was writing. Basically, like with me not drinking, I have so many people that will just talk about it in conversation, and they'll say like, well, I did 30 days, but then I had this event, and like if I went to a wedding, I have to have a drink. And I was like, well, you don't. I don't. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible to not do it, but it's a choice and it's a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have support in your decisions or even somebody to text, whatever. But basically breaking the belief that, I don't know. I guess I was there before, but I'm on the other side of it now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're on the other side, and what we're trying to do is get them crossover.
Right.
Lo, have I ever shown you the shape before? The V? Let me see if I
No,
can go down camera.
I don't think so.
Have I ever shown you guys this shape before? Jen has seen it a million times. Okay. So basically what we want to imagine, this is what my entire life is, this shape. Like everything I ever do is this. This is basically before, this is after, and this is the valley that they need to cross. It's really dark going down, and they can get to climb up. What has to happen, guys, is, well, first of all, we want to recognize is that right now, they're here at the beginning, and you're here at the end. From this side, you're like, dude, just jump. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. It's not that, it's like way easier than you think. But to them, exactly, to them, it seems freaking huge. They can't even see the bottom. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm too scared to even look over the ledge to see the bottom. So your job, as you tell a story and as you walk somebody through a sales process, as you move through the sales presentation, as you deliver the keynote, your job is to safely hold their hand and walk them down all the way to the bottom of the valley. And you do this by agreeing with them, by showing them that their beliefs are true, that it makes sense for them to believe those. And you agree with them over and over and over and over and over again. Once you have done that, again, we're in this part right here where we're talking about the process, about what shifted. Once we've done that, now there's a level of trust implicitly that they have with you. And they say, yes, I am just like you. He gets me at a total like nervous system level. We are resonating. She gets me. She understands me. And then from there, we get to make a tiny shift. And then once that shift happens, we get to climb them all the way out onto the opposite side. And now they get to end up on point number 2. But I want you to understand, guys, if you try and, this drawing is a mess. If you try to make this leap too early, it's gonna create resistance inside of them. And they're gonna be like, no, it's too much. It's too much. I can't do it. It's too much. I can't do it. Which is why you have to exhaust all their objections first before you implant the new thing. Think about this. In the sales process, you don't make an offer at the very beginning of the call. You make the offer after you know they're ready to hear it. You ask them again and again and again about their problems. You walk them all the way down into the hell that they're already unconsciously in, and then you make them aware of it. And then you show them another way out. And you slowly walk them out and get them clear on what they actually want and what that's going to look like. And then you can make the offer. This shape is going like low. We will talk about this shape so many freaking times. But this is the shape that you need to follow. And ultimately, what you also want to understand, guys, is that it looks like you're walking them. Of course, the pen runs out of ink. It looks like you're walking them down and you're walking them up. But what's actually happening, guys, is that over the duration of the talk, over the duration of the sales call, you're actually filling this in with trust so that they can trust themselves. Not you, not you. You do not need them to trust you. You need them to trust themselves so that they can walk across this without any effort. It's a huge journey to go and do this over and over again. But what you're ultimately doing realistically, subconsciously, you're filling that with trust so they can simply walk. And then your offer becomes the most obvious next step again and again and again. They want to feel like it's logical, like it's safe, and it's the most obvious next step for them. Because you already understand their problem. You already seen what they've tried. You've already seen what that's resulted in. You already see the loop that they're in. And you already see what that's not only costing them, but what it's unconsciously costing them. I'll tell you about what this looks like in a second. But can you guys see, first of all, do you understand that shape, what I'm talking about here? And you understand what I'm talking about when we're creating an implicit agreements over and over again so they can feel safe enough to listen. And what happens when we take a leap, when we make the offer too early, we provide the solution too early. Because Lo just actually gave an example right here. Did anybody see what the example was that Lo just gave?
Like that they can only do it until a point, and then, is that what you mean? Like that was their resistance, was like, oh yeah, I can do it for 30 days, or I can do it when I don't have a wedding, or I can do it when I don't have an event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Lo says, oh, but it's not a big deal. Think about this.
He says you don't have to. It's easy. And in their mind, they're like, oh my God, no, it's not.
This literally was the biggest light bulb moment that I think I've had in 3 years. Because to me, I'm like, well, yeah, you just do it. Like, but duh. Thank you. Genius.
Yeah. Good. If the answer was just do it, we would have just done it. That's ultimately what you're saying to that person subconsciously. First, they're telling you the experience, so they're exposing some level of vulnerability subconsciously. And then you say, oh, just do it. What they are implicitly hearing is, yeah, I must be stupid. I must be broken. There must be something wrong with me, especially if it's as easy as she's saying it. Wow, I must be an idiot. It must be me.
Mm-hmm.
Benefit is you can actually call that out. You can talk about this story. We'll kind of talk about that at a later date. But you guys can see what happens when you prematurely try to make the offer. You try to add the solution in. It actually creates more resistance. Now they're out the door. They're not even in the building anymore. Before they were like sitting down and they were curious and they were listening. Then once you say that, they're scrolling on their phone. They're thinking about what's for dinner. Subconsciously, the subconscious does not want to feel that level of danger. So it will do everything it possibly can to back itself out.
Mm-hmm.
So we agree again and again and again. So an example, guys, my example is with sales. I freaking hated sales. And I remember memorizing a 3-page script, and the only 3 questions I ever asked the client, they only got to ask yes or no questions. And it was just me doing that over and over again, dozens and dozens of consults. I didn't make any money and it was miserable. And I said, there's got to be another way to sell. So when I launched my own business, I was like, I'm going to learn a different way to sell. And it's not going to be pressurized and it's not going to make other people uncomfortable. Yeah, it's not going to make other people uncomfortable. I want people to want to say yes, people to want to work with me. So I started studying more scripts. I started studying a lot more about sales. I started paying for more sales coaches, and I've learned a little bit more. And I started making sales, a few hundred there, a few thousand there. And I was really proud, but I was never making the money that I wanted. And I realized if I want to hit my actual goals, then something really dramatically has have to change. I can't keep doing these little piecemeal solutions. I need one really big one. And that's when I said, I actually don't know what's going on because I'm learning all the scripts. I'm learning all the words. I'm learning all the objection handling tools, but something else is going on. And that's when I learned about the subconscious. Boom. Can you guys see how I created agreement, shift? Agreement, shift. I was making some progress. All the things they thought they were going to try, a sales coach, more scripts, objection handling tools. I thought that's what was happening. That's what they think they need more of. In their mind, they came in here, I'm going to find out the next best script. I'm going to find the next best thing. See, all I need is one more sales coach and then I'll be good. If someone could just review my sales calls and I got that feedback, I'd be good. See, agree, and then shift. I'm not implanting subconscious work from the beginning. I'm telling them all this stuff that I was doing, and I'm also saying that it worked. So like, Lo, for you, a good example is to say, yeah, and I did drink a little bit, and I did, and it gave me this, and I felt relaxed, and people liked me, and I was more funny, and I was more fun when I drank. You guys can see what it looks like to create these implicit agreements, and how even you guys, look at your nervous system is commanding your body right now. All your heads are doing this over and over and over again. That's what your brain That's what your audience is going to be doing the entire time. They're going to be saying yes, 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 yes. What you're actually doing in hypnosis, guys, is you're creating implicit agreements. They're agreeing with you. Yep, micro agreements again and again and again and again. And the more yeses you can get them to say yes to, regardless of what it is, you can say, "Is it cold in here? Are you guys having fun? Can you guys hear me all right? Can you type in your chat?" Now they are actually following your command. That's an embedded command. You do that again and again and again and again and again and again. You guys, are you now beginning to see how my clients are closing like half the room when they speak? We're not even touching like the surface. But you guys, we're creating all these again and again and again and again. Because the more agreements and compliance you can create in the beginning, the more agreements and compliance you can get at the end. You basically get them to say yes to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger things. That's what a relationship is. You date somebody and you say, yeah, I'll talk to this person. And then you say, yeah, I'll date this person. And then you say, yeah, I'll become exclusive with them. And you say, yeah, I'll get married to them. You say, yeah, I'll have kids with them. Say, yeah, I'll spend all the rest of my life with you. Yeah, I'll put up with your shit. Just over and over and over again. Somebody's getting hypnotized. Somebody's getting hypnotized. Somebody's doing the hypnotizing. That's another key piece to use, guys, is humor. As soon as your body laughs, it's this massive release of energy in your nervous system. So that's fractionation in itself. So it pulls you out so you can go right back in deeper. And every time you go out and you come back in, you get deeper and deeper and deeper into an hypnotic state. Before I proceed, anybody, what thoughts are coming up?
For me, the V, I was pretty impressed. I even could like draw it on my phone. But I realized that what I've been doing is basically like building a bridge. Mm-hmm. So not doing any of that, because I thought I was thinking it from the perspective of, oh, I'm just gonna like rationale it. Like, look, I'm just gonna, yes, there's a pit right here, but look, there's a bridge right here. So like cross the bridge, come over here. And so I've been bypassing all of that, of the agreement and the pain and the suffering and the whatever, because I've been looking at it like how Lo said, of like, it's so easy. This is what you do. Like, oh, I'm so scared of being scammed, or I'm so scared that it's in another language, or I'm so scared that there's going to be language barrier. And I'm like, oh, absolutely no problem. Like, I have a whole thing, you know, I have a whole thing that tells you even what emojis to use. Like, not saying, yeah, I felt the same way. Yeah, I was Google translating, like, what does this word mean culturally to that? Like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just literally like, no, look, I built you the bridge. Come over here. Hello. Mm-hmm. So that was like a huge epiphany for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else? Other thoughts? Somebody else? One more person.
I think it's just always really interesting to notice how your body responds, even as you learn these things more and more times. And this is something I'm working with my clients, is that like agreement and safety first, and how much that relaxes the body so that you can actually be coherent and hear what the person's going to say that might be more challenging, or that might be a harder truth, for example.
Yep. So pause here. Guys, this is why it's so important. I talked about the baby and the parent frame. This is why it's so important for you to be doing your own subconscious work, so that when you step on stage, you are in frame and everyone else is in your frame. Because if you are subconsciously needing something from the audience, you need to get these sales, you need their approval, you need their validation, then your brain is going to be subconsciously looking at every one of their expressions. Are they on their phone? Are they writing on a piece of paper? Are they looking at the ceiling? And it's going to be making it's going to start questioning itself. Like, am I doing good enough? Should I be speaking louder? Should I be speaking slower or faster? Was that the right story? Shit, did I forget a part? But if you are completely relaxed in a secure state, where you're saying, yeah, I want this, and I'm okay to not be getting it from them because I can give it to myself. I don't need these sales. These sales don't mean anything about me. Their approval, their applause, whether they laugh or cry, it's great, but it doesn't mean anything about me. I don't need them to get it. I'm here to do something that I enjoy, to tell my story, to share what I have with the people who are ready to hear it. That's what speaking is, guys. As a natural byproduct of that state combined with these strategies, sales become inevitable. We're halfway through step 2. So we've already got to the part where we're making all those implicit agreements, and then we get to the shift. Again, the shift is we're like, oh, something else is new. So then I found the subconscious work. And I realized as I found more that my belief on the surface was actually hiding something buried deeply underneath. And by doing this subconscious work, I discovered more about me and my relationships, specifically with my mom and a lot with my family when I was a kid. But when it came to business, it really showed itself when I was on sales calls. And it's when somebody would ask me a question or to give me some pushback or challenge, and I would tense up and I would explode. I would be waiting for them to explode, because in my mind, I thought what they were saying was that you're not believable. You're not real. You're not credible. You're not a real coach. Your shit isn't valuable. I'm not paying this. You're a joke. So as soon as my brain was already scanning for that, so as soon as it found any evidence, and it was scanning all the time, it was looking for any evidence. Anytime somebody would look away from the camera, anytime somebody would pause for a second, or there was a longer silence than I was expecting, my heart would seize up and I'd start second guessing myself. And then that would start showing up at the call and I'd lose all my deals. But I found that even that belief in itself had nothing to do with sales, and ultimately was manifest from a memory that I had with my mom. And we came from a place, we were poor growing up. We didn't have any money. And when I started working when I was like 16 years old, my mom was regularly asking me for money to pay for groceries for the house. And I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, you're my mom, and like, I want to help in any way that I can. And then I started to gain more and more understanding of her relationship with alcohol, and saying, I really don't want her to experience that. I don't want to experience that. So one day when she asked me for money, I said, yeah, I'll gladly, just as normal, I'll gladly give it to you. But you're not going to use it for beer. My heart seized. And she glared at me, and in that moment, I knew I did something wrong. And she exploded on me, screaming at me, how dare you tell me what I do? I'm your parent. You don't get to tell me anything. You can keep your money. I don't need your money to do whatever, so on and so forth. And it kept on going. And I was terrified after that. But implicitly, what did I learn? Is that I was not allowed to push back. I was not allowed to challenge. So every time on a sales call, there was an opportunity for me to challenge, I veered away from it, because my brain associated with loss of love, with loss of safety. It literally thought at a nervous system level that I was going to die. But once I was able to go back and realize the struggle that my mom had, understanding what it was like for her to be impoverished, to be in violent, abusive relationships, to be raising multiple children from multiple men, I understood how much stress she was under. And I also understood how alcohol is simply a self-soothing mechanism. When somebody's feeling overwhelming stress, they're going to do anything they possibly can. If they don't have internal tools, what will they do? They'll externalize. And that might come as screaming. That might come as violence. It might come as substance use. And I had a level of understanding and forgiveness for my mom. And I realized she never did anything wrong. She was only doing her best. And I was doing my best too. Her reaction had nothing to do with me. Her reaction had to do more with her relationship with herself. And in that moment, I was able to love my mom more and love myself enough to push against my client's belief, so I could challenge them and see through their own limiting beliefs, their subconscious beliefs that are running their life. They think they need more leads. They think they need more sales coaching, but what they need is more safety in their body. And as a result of that, my clients have gone from Jenna, from 40 to 90% closing in 7 days, beginning to learn my system. My clients have gone from 6 to 50K in 2 months. People who've never signed a client, signing a $72,000 client, first thing they've ever sold in their lives. But not because they're learning the scripts, because their body feels so safe. Pause. You guys see what's happening?
Take my credit card.
Oh, yes.
We're all so deep in state. We're all
Yes.
just like,
Yes, yes.
And I don't even
Thoughts?
know what you're selling.
Yeah, thoughts.
No, that's incredible. And just the way that you told the story in such detail, like you were talking about earlier, it really makes you feel connected and like you're there while you're speaking it. And it connected all the dots too.
Yep.
This isn't really with what you had to say, but just more like you told us to be aware of what we're thinking and our body's doing. I found myself, as you started talking more about the story, me immediately going like, well, this is like too long for social media. Like people are going to scroll away. Like I started kind of combating that. And then, so, you know, just took note of that. That was interesting. And then also like reminding myself, that's not even the point. Like the point of this is for speaking on stage. Like it's supposed to be longer. It's supposed to be, but I just think that's interesting that that was one of my first things was like, again, going back to like, oh, well, this works for him. This doesn't work for me, you know, and then being like, no, hold on. You're making up stuff over here.
Yep. So there's a number of things. So first, excellent work. We want to notice the body. We want to notice the reaction, and we want to get underneath that and say, what is the belief? Imagine somebody who's saying, this doesn't work for me. Imagine somebody saying, this is great, but no. How would you describe somebody who learns something new and says that? Just how would you describe that person?
Like they learn something new and they just say, oh, it won't work for me. Well, it might be rude, but I would be like, you're a quitter. Like you didn't even try.
Okay, good. Perfect. Right there, we already know that she has a subconscious belief. There's some part of her that thinks she's a quitter, or there's a fear about being a quitter. So she'll do everything she possibly can, including staying with things longer than she needs to. She'll push and persevere to make it work so that she won't be a quitter. But all of it is still in relationship of disproving the subconscious belief about being a quitter. That's kind of like next level, but we can see that. So that also, guys, this is important. And I'm glad actually on multiple levels that you said that so we could see that and say that's normal. Because Marissa, that's not your belief. You inherited that from somewhere. And that part is still just trying to keep you safe. So we can get into that and just find that there's more safety. Like those triggers, when your body, that's like the flag that shows us, in my mind, I'm like, that's money. That's money. That's money right there. We just want to move towards that, create more safety, integrate, and then move past. Yeah, resistance is a lighthouse. We want to be moving toward these things. But the next thing we'll understand is that there's a sequence. There's a sequence. Any story you guys, you can tell, you should be able to tell it in 30 seconds. You should be able to blow it up to 3 days. If you want to throw a challenge, it can all be built around one story. If you want to turn it into a movie, you want to turn it into a novel, you want to turn it into a reel, you can blow up and you can compress. I'll make a reel about this tomorrow or today, and I'll show you how I can do it in under a minute, just so you can see that. But also, what we also want to understand is that those beliefs are what are going to come. So ultimately, there's a sequence of 4 beliefs that we're trying to overcome. We need stories for each one of these. The offer. This is irrelevant. This is what they're coming in with. This is irrelevant to me. So the first thing we do is we make it relevant to them. We talk about their problems. We talk about their desires. We talk exactly about the industry that they're in or something specific that they're experiencing. Number 2, this doesn't work. This is a scam. I've heard about this. I already know somebody who tried something like this and it doesn't work. All these internet gurus are all saying, do this. It doesn't work. So then we show them, this does work. And here are the receipts. You know, I thought that didn't work either. And I was like, no. So then I tell another story and I say, yeah, this is actually, I thought exactly the same thing. And here's the proof that I had that it didn't work. That's an important part. When we make the implicit agreements, we want to provide proof. We want to show them evidence about how we agree with them. Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I agree, versus saying, oh no, yeah, I actually burned down the house that was pink because I hate the color pink, just like you. That now we have evidence that we hate the color pink. It's one thing to say like we hate or whatever. Or we can say like, oh yeah, see, I love dogs. I show them my phone. It's one thing to say I love dogs, another one to have a picture of a dog on my phone. Evidence, more agreement. The third one is this, this could work for me. This could work specifically for me. Not only does this work, but it works for me. So the belief that they're coming in is that this works, but it doesn't work for me. So then we show them specifically for you, this is why it would work for you. I thought exactly the same thing. And again, here's more evidence. I create more implicit agreements around that. And then the fourth one is finally, they're coming in with the belief, this could work for me, but here's why it won't. Because of my money situation, because of my trauma, because of my spouse, because of my kids, because of my grandkids, because of whatever the thing is. And then you show them, that's exactly what I thought. An implicit agreement over and over again with evidence, and then we implant the new belief. You can see those 4 stories. Now, there's a series of other stories that we can talk about that are helpful with that. Things about money, things about investing, things about trusting yourself, things about your mindset. There's just so many different other things you can implant. You can also embed those beliefs into the story itself, or those 4 ones. But you can see those 4 stories come up with the conclusion, this is relevant to me. This works, this will work for me, and there's literally nothing outside of myself that could stop. The next thing are, this is valuable, this is an incredible deal, and there's literally nothing that would stop this from working for me. And then finally, I would be stupid to not buy this. I would literally be dumb to not buy this. And then here's the part, honestly, I just learned this the other day, guys, is I don't like guilt tripping, I don't like pressurizing people into buying. I like letting them know, like, you can go and watch my YouTube, you can follow my reels, you can listen to my clients. You can watch my clients speak and you'll understand this. And you can, you can do this over and over and over again. And then it's free. I'm here for somebody who's ready, who wants help with this, who wants side by side, somebody they can ask questions, side by side support, somebody who's willing to give them space to be with them in the trenches when it gets hairy, and to support them, not only when they're winning, but when they're losing. And to be with them consistently as that stable rock all the way through. Exactly. And then you can even provide information about that. Like I spent, 15 years studying this, hundreds of thousands of dollars studying this, thousands and thousands of clients studying this, hundreds and hundreds of books studying this. Total investment, I don't know, if we calculate, it'd be like $500,000. And just to we're not really talking about this, but the last thing you can do is frame the offer and say, if you use this and it just increased your profits by X%, if it improved your relationship by X%, if it improved just the relationship with one of your kids by X%, what would that be worth? 10,000, 50,000, 100,000? Even if it was just one time and you only used it one time, you just learned this one thing and it just did this one thing. Well, that's great because it's only $5,000. You use the price anchor and use contrast to say, oh, it's not that, it's actually this. Thoughts?
I don't really have any thoughts. I'm just like, yeah, this is great. I've taken notes and it's very cool to see the very specific, fixes for problems in a way that I have not been. My fixes have always been very analytical and not emotional at all. And this is literally the total opposite. My fixes are, you don't know how, you're scared of communicating overseas. Cool. Here's my literal scripts that you can copy and paste so that you don't have to worry about that. Instead of all of the going down the valley first.
This is good. I'm glad you said that, Marissa. This is important for everybody because that you use that stuff in the offer itself. So not in the presentation, but in the offer. Any concern or question that they have, or especially you guys, this is important because once you solve this problem, they're gonna have another problem. And they're gonna have another problem. And they can't even anticipate it, but you've done this enough times that you've seen it, and you formulate the offer so it solves for all those different things, including positive sides. For example, one of my favorite presentations was from Sonia Stribling, and her big thing was around not paying taxes and investing. So she's not only saying, you're going to make a lot of money, I'm going to give you something with all the money that you've made. So she's already assuming, she's implanting in your brain, this is already going to work, and I'm going to show you how to solve the next problem. So, because what does that implant in her brain? Wow, She really knows what she's talking about. I'm really going to win. She's right. I am going to have to figure out what to do with this. So you get the sequence of offers or solutions within the offer. And that framed inside that person will just say, oh my gosh, of course, absolutely. Why wouldn't I do this? She's already thinking about my future. She already knows. She knows me better than I know myself. So before we wrap, I got one more thing I want to share with you guys. But what's coming up before we wrap?
My client just got here. She texted me, so I have to run. But this was so good. Like, I feel like the little your shape. Yes, in all of it. But you guys are amazing, and send me the end of it so I can see it.
You got it. You got it, guys.
Thanks, guys. Okay, bye.
So that's just so that you guys know. Actually, before we go, Jenna, what do you think it's been like to work with me?
Mind blowing. No, it's just continual. I think working with you is, yes, you're getting a solution that you're looking for, whether that's sales or public speaking or growing your business. But at the same time, you are having so much higher levels of not just self-awareness, but like consciousness on how your own like brain is working and how you're operating. And through that, I feel like you're way more successful because you're not just following something blindly, but you're knowing like how your brain and nervous system is operating in a relationship with it.
Look what just happened. Guys, you bring your clients to your talks and you just ask that question. I didn't prompt her with anything. If you've done a good job, they're going to love talking about you. Plus, they've already seen you do your work. So then they're going to be back in state reminded of how amazing you are. Then they're just going to say that, and everybody else is going to hear it, not from you, but from them. As often as you can, bring one of your clients, invite them to your talk, and then just ask that question. Can you just share a little bit about what it was like to work with me? Well, what's your experience been like? And if you've done a good job, then they're going to just move. And then that's a testimonial, like live on the spot, on the webinar or on stage. Marissa, thoughts?
I love that. I think that's so, smart. And I've seen people do that. I've seen people, even my private clients that I work with, when they're doing webinars or in person or whatever, their alumni or their whatever, like, get free tickets. And, it's because then they're on the Zoom, then they're in the chat, then people are like, oh, well, I don't really know if I can. I've always wanted to do a subscription box, but I don't really know if I can. And then it's like you have all these cheerleaders being like, oh my gosh, I thought the same thing. And so instead of just Sarah being like, you can do it, it's all these other people, which I think makes it so much more relatable. When I think people assume, because people have no idea, right? If it's Zoom, whatever, but people assume that anyone else who's there is closer to them than whoever's speaking. And that person who's speaking is like so unattainable, so far away, yada, yada, whatever. And so I think it immediately closes that gap of trust and like comfortability when you're assuming like, oh, you're like a peon like me. But I mean, that person could be 8-figure, 7, it doesn't matter. But you just in your brain are like, oh, they're more like me than the person who's giving the presentation.
Yes, exactly. They're not on the stage. They're a step. They're a staircase. They're one step that's more accessible. That one seems like they're already on the roof. This person's one step. So we can get a sequence of testimonials, and it helps if like your page is built this way. We've got a bunch of different testimonials at different levels so that everybody can see themselves in your thing. But more specifically, you only post your dream clients and you post their testimonials so that they're attracting more dream clients, because then they're just speaking about that. And again, you use the testimonial framework, the storytelling bridge that allows them to see themselves in these 3 phases: the before, the during, and the after. Again, The 3 questions: am I like you? What shifted? And then finally, what happened? The problem, the process, and the result. Okay, guys. Last thing before we go, you basically have everything that you need. At a high level, obviously, there's a lot more detail you can do to refine and get more detailed and specific on what this looks like. But I'll tell you that this is stuff that I've paid basically all of my money from my business. I've taken it and then invested to learn from better and better and better speakers. And I'm just obsessed with speaking. I'm just obsessed with behavior change. I just am constantly trying to answer the question, why does somebody know what they want but not get it? And speaking, as I understand it, is the fastest way to solve for that. Instead of selling one-to-one, instead of speaking on social media, you get everybody in a room and you put them in the state over and over and over again. You break their subconscious beliefs, you completely dissolve them, and you install new empowered beliefs. And then you have them act on those new beliefs, not only to work with you, but to trust themselves enough to enroll in this new identity. And then once you're in the offer, you enforce that identity over and over again, not only from you, but from your community or whatever else things are involved. You're selling an identity, guys, beyond anything else. You're letting them step into the person they've always wanted to be. And in order for you guys to use this, guys, you have to recognize your own resistance to it. Because I will tell you, I mean, there's only 3 of you, but most of you will hear this and it's like, not because you weren't paying attention, not because you didn't like it, but because your brain is saying, oh, that's great, but not for me. Because there's some part of you that says, who am I to be listened to like this? Who am I to use such a advanced technique? Who am I to be doing this? And I'm reflecting back exactly what we started this call with, guys. You've already been doing it. I'm just showing you what you've been doing to other people doing it to you. You've been doing it to yourself. All we're doing now is becoming conscious to it. And now you get to play with it. Practice. Notice other people's stories. Try telling a story on a reel. If you're going to give a keynote, you can try that. But just try telling a new story and seeing how you can dissolve beliefs in somebody and install new ones. The more you do it, the better you get. The deeper they go into state, the stronger they focus with you, and the more confident you feel. Not just because you're getting good at it and because you're having fun, but because these people's lives will change. One conversation after another. Do it to your kids. Do it to your friends. Do it to your partners. I promise you guys, you're already changing lives. You use this technique, it'll change even more. You learn the entire system, you'll make a lot of money. Ladies, you've been an absolute delight. It's a blessing for me to get to share this, my favorite stuff with you. If you guys have any questions, shoot me a message, and I'll talk to you guys soon.